Okay, we are officially live. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my fellow comic book collectors. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, We Love Comics. Today is the 28th of February, 2019. Currently 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome one and all to my broadcast. I already see a bunch of people coming in, so thank you very much. And I always say hi to the people that first arrive, especially since I don't plan these. I just decide, all right, I'm going to make a video, and people actually pop in real quick, so that's always pleasant to see. So James Watson, Florence Chestnut, Sith Lord, who was the surprise subscriber shout-out last video. Florence, always a pleasure. Comic Lover Omega, Mark G, Stacy Weekly Comic Book Picks. I see some new people. I like to see that. That's always promising. Michael P, Nomaz, Joshua James, Draken Slayer, Silver Claw. I like that name. Probe 186. We got LV Travel, John, and another John. So both Johns, welcome. So I want to say hello. And the first thing I want to start out with this is just my opinion. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell other people what to do. So if you do not agree with this, that's perfectly fine. I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just here to share my experience as a comic collector since the mid-'80s and a comic book movie lover, especially when it comes to the MCU. And why I've decided that I will not be watching and I'll be skipping the Captain Marvel movie. Now, it's going to be controversial, and that's okay. The idea is to be able to discuss these things without people fighting and arguing. And I was actually holding off on this one for a while, and then I realized one of the things about life is if you're afraid to share your opinions based on what other people, how they might respond, that's a convenient way to silence your ability to speak your own mind. And that hurts your own ability to communicate, and I don't want to be one of those people. So I'm not afraid to speak my mind, even if it goes against the norm, even if most people don't agree, even if it's something I exclusively think of for myself. So with that being said, I grew up in an era where there were not very many comic book movies. I mean, I remember back in the 70s seeing Superman, which was a great movie. Then, I mean, you literally skip until the late 80s when Batman came around. So it was almost a decade. I mean, you had Superman 2, which was a great movie. The other Supermans definitely should have been made. But there wasn't like a huge variety of comic book movies as we see today. And I think many people these days, I guess you almost take it for granted at this point. And if you look at, there's a video I did, I think it was last year, talking about the comic book crash and when I feel it's going to happen. And I said we're not close to it yet. And I predicted when Marvel makes 3 bad movies in a row, you're going to start seeing, in my opinion, the comic book crash happen. Now, so far, they haven't had a terrible movie at all. Now, there haven't been, every movie hasn't been a winner. I mean, Iron Man 2 and 3, not the best Marvel movies. There are certain movies that, love them or hate them. Thor 2, The Dark World, that was not a Marvel top 10 movie. Still watchable. It wasn't something that was like, for example, The Last Jedi that made me hate Star Wars, and I refuse to watch any Star Wars movie. I haven't seen Solo, and I will not see the new Star Wars movie. But here's my thing. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been pretty decent. Some very great movies, like Guardians of the Galaxy, and again, then you have the Dark World movies, but they were still watchable. And I want to say this really quick. Anybody that's kind enough to ever do a super chat, Draken Slayer Silver Claw, and again, love that name. He did a $2 super chat, and it's not mandatory, but it's appreciated, and I always make sure I acknowledge them as soon as I see it. So he says, only Captain Marvel movie I'll see is Shazam. Yes, which is the actual original Captain Marvel back in the Golden Age. That seems really good. Now, see, the biggest problem I have with this is the politics that are going on behind it. Now, you're going to get your social justice warrior kind of moments in movies. I noticed that in the first Spider-Man movie. Like, in the beginning of the movie where ironically, who played Batman, who played the Vulture, was saying about how he was something about Indian artifacts, and then the other guy corrects him and says Native American, and there were just some other things. I mean, it was tolerable, but you could tell Marvel is starting to go in a direction that's not going to end well if they continue to do it more and more. And Captain Marvel, unfortunately, is the movie that seems to be a direction they should not be headed. And again, in my opinion. See, to me, movies are supposed to be about an escape from quote-unquote reality. That's why growing up, I never liked horror movies. Because to me, going to watch somebody being murdered, I mean, I could put on the news and see that every day. To me, that was an escape from reality. But that's why I grew up. I saw the original Star Wars in 1977 in the movie theater. I was 6 years old. I loved Indiana Jones, things like that. The Aliens movies. I remember seeing the original Aliens in a drive-thru, and when the alien pops out of the guy's stomach in the beginning, I mean, spoiler alert, I had a stomach ache the whole movie. But it was an escape. I loved comedies, and I loved when they started bringing out all of these superhero movies. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Marvel and DC. DC has been great with Batman, not as good as, the earlier times. I mean, the recent trilogy with The Dark Knight, those were great. I think that's one. Matter of fact, The Dark Knight Returns, or is it The Dark Knight, the one with the Joker? I think that's one of the top 3 best movies as far as comic book movies of all time, in my opinion. Of course, you can have it different. So I love Marvel and DC. DC is starting to get on track. But when it comes to Captain Marvel, you have to understand that not many people outside of the comic book community are going to even know who Captain Marvel is. So right there, that is a concern. Now, obviously, nobody knew, even some people in the comic book community didn't know about the Guardians of the Galaxy. So just because it's not known doesn't mean it cannot be a good movie. So I want to make that perfectly clear. If you could make a talking tree and a talking raccoon household names, you've done a good job. But here is my concern, and where we need to be very careful of the thread that's happening, especially in the past 2 or 3 years when it comes to Hollywood in general. It's okay to have a political belief. Whether you're on the left, right, whether you're centrist, it shouldn't matter. But when any side is trying to tell the other side that they can't have their right to a different point of view, and then attack them in certain ways, is more of a separate tactic than a uniting one. Now, I can understand when you're watching the president speak, or watching something that's going on in Congress or the Senate, or watching a news organization channel. I can understand where people might have conflicting beliefs. But to me, I've always thought true debate is being able to communicate with each other, where you show your side and talk about your side. The other side talks and shows their side. They try and share ideas to maybe we can learn from each other. And unfortunately, these days, it's all about you're wrong, so you're evil. That is not productive. That is not helpful. That is not going to bring us anywhere closer as a human species. Now, the problem is, where most people don't realize, and I've always said before, especially on my other channel, you need real eyes to realize. You got to think deeper. Unfortunately, Hollywood and the media tends to be more leftist driven. Whether you agree with that, that depends on your level of research. I'm not here to change your political point of view. But what is. And they use a lot of the media through entertainment to be able to slip in what they call agendas, to have a politicizing of entertainment, because they know lots of people, young and old, are going to listen to music, watch TV, go to a movie. So it's a way that you could slip things in, and that's happened for generations. But it's getting to the point now where it's getting out of control. Now, unfortunately, Disney, who is the controller of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is starting to show its true colors, heading in the wrong direction with its political views. Now, I'm not here to tell Disney what political views they can have. They're allowed, just like you're allowed to have any political view you want. But the problem is, when you don't allow somebody else to have an alternative point of view, and you attack others and saying they're wrong to the point where you silence them, that creates resistance. That does not create silence. It creates antagonism. It creates the friction. That's not unity, that's division. If you ever read The Art of War, the easiest way for a smaller army to defeat a larger army is to get the larger army to fight amongst itself, creating division in its own rankings. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. It's called divide and conquer. Again, because of the fact that they put their political agendas, and if you don't know it by now, you're not paying attention or you just refuse to listen to it. Just because you close your eyes and you hold your ears and you go la 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 doesn't mean it's not happening. We need to be aware of these things. And again, when I watch a comic book movie especially, I don't want to be told that I'm wrong because of my skin color or of my gender or of my religious beliefs or anything. I don't want to go to a movie being told that I'm bad for who I am or what I believe. And with the Captain Marvel movie, especially because of the fact of Brie Larson. Now, I haven't seen Captain Marvel, so I don't know if the movie is going to be good or bad. It could be one of the greatest movies of all time for all we know. I'm not going to sit here and say that... I cannot make a judgment saying that because of my opinions of what Brie Larson has done and is doing means that it's a bad movie. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it puts a bad taint in the water, so to speak. Because Brie Larson has said things, and I'm not going to show any clips because you know how YouTube is these days. They're quick to demonetize you, and considering I only have one job, and just to let people know, we had to bring Luna to the emergency room last night because she got an injury because she got into a fight with our other cats. But my point is, Brie Larson was saying things to the effect of, again, I'm not going to show a clip, but I'm going to paraphrase the quote. She said, one of her clips that she's famous for is saying, you know, I don't want to hear what white dudes have to say about a movie called The Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for them. Now, she said it in a very condescending way. Every time she referred to a white person, she said, white dude. So you could see it was very sarcastic. Now, I don't read minds, so I don't know what her true intention was. But all I can say is, you remember, you have to look at things at all perspectives. Now, just imagine if she, instead of saying, I don't need to hear from white dudes, what if she said African American? What if she said Chinese? What if she said Mexican? Now, you see, if you changed the role and somebody else would get offended, then obviously, even if you aren't, quote-unquote, a white dude, if you cannot walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, you will never understand what's going on. And to lift someone up, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you lift someone up by bringing others down, you are not sending a positive message. Now, one of the biggest things they're doing with this Brie Larson is trying to say, well, she's the most powerful character so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She hasn't earned it. Now, the movie gives a theme. Like, for example, when they try and flash in the word hero, it starts out with her. So they're going like, for example, Disney with the Star Wars thing, you know, the Force is feminine or female. That takes away part of the audience because not every person is female. And if you're saying, oh, you know, the Force is female, well, what does that say to male viewers? And this movie is about, for example, you know, we're going to show the men how to do it. And she says the words, and I could get it wrong, so forgive me, better, stronger, faster. So in other words, she's got to be powerful by beating other people to prove a point. And to me, that is not entertainment. And that's something we really need to be careful about. Because when people have an attack on them, whether it's verbal or physical, they're going to be defensive. If somebody says something negative about me, if I choose to defend myself, that doesn't make me a bad person. Now, it depends on how you react to it. And I learned that the hard way when I originally had my first We Love Comics channel, and there were people making all these false accusations about me, and I felt I had the right to defend myself, but I didn't do it in the best way. That's on me. And when people were making their opinions, now, if you saw the whole controversy that was going on with Rotten Tomatoes, the viewing score was getting lower and lower. Now, it wasn't people saying, oh, the movie sucks, because how can you say that if you haven't seen the movie? And the people that are giving the early previews, you know, they're invited by Disney and Marvel Studios, and, you know, if they give nothing but honest, bad reviews, if they deserve it, they're not getting invited back. So I never take serious the people that get the early reviews, because they get paid to do it. They make a lot of money to do it. Sometimes they even have to sign forms and non-disclosures about certain things. That, to me, is not genuine. It's not sincere. If you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Doesn't mean you can't. But the problem is, the ratings were going lower based on the fact of not people shooting it down saying the movie sucks, but saying, would you go to see it? And many people were clicking no. Now, instead of Disney and Hollywood saying, you know what, let's get some constructive criticism, let's learn from it, see what we're doing wrong, and then improve, they decided to say, you know what, we're going to shut that down, we're going to take it away, and we're going to blame it on the patriarchy, the white men. We're going to blame it on trolls and haters. Now, I'm sure there were some trolls. There are some haters. In this video, you'll see about between 5 and 11 thumbs down. I get them all the time no matter what I do. So yes, there are going to be people that genuinely just hate because it's fun for them. But that's not the average person. Like, if you look at my video, if I have 5 thumbs down, I probably have about 105 thumbs up. That, to me, suggests that the average person that's watching this, for the right reasons, will thumb it up because they feel I've earned it. Some just thumb it down as soon as I do it. So you're going to get that. So I'm sure there were people that went to Rotten Tomatoes and said, you know what, screw this movie. I'm going to thumb it down, and maybe made a couple of fake accounts. I'm sure there were some. You can't say, in this day and age in the internet, we know how it works at this point. But not everybody is a hater. Not everybody is a troll. And me as a heterosexual white male, I don't want somebody preaching to me that if I don't agree with something, that makes me bad. Or makes me evil. Or makes me a hater, and things like that. Sometimes things are not liked. I mean, like, for example, I don't like broccoli. If you love broccoli, that's great. But who am I, because I don't like it, who am I to tell you you can't have it? Or who are you to tell me, well, you don't like it, so what's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you. We shouldn't have that kind of message being sent. And to me, when you see a movie or pay for something that's basically insulting you, you're telling them that it's okay to do it. And it's okay to continue it. So look at, for example, what happened with the Disney franchise. People sent a very clear message with the Solo movie that we were not going to take it lying down. And we were not going to support them financially. And they could huff and puff. They can make any accusation they want. Truth is truth no matter how you try and change it or color it. And they started doing a change to the newest movie that they'll be making. Now, again, I still will not be giving them the money, because I know they're not doing it because they genuinely care. They're doing it to make more money and to pretend that they care. You got to be smarter than that. Now, the problem is, many people are going to say, well, you know, Captain Marvel is a pivotal movie because it's going to give you the go-between with the Avengers Infinity movie. It's going to give you the first appearance of the Skrulls and all this other stuff. You know, that's a marketing plan by Disney. They didn't do that by accident. They knew they had a character that not many people outside the comic book community are going to be really familiar with. I mean, all you have to do is watch a clip of Joe Rogan a couple of days ago. I don't remember which one, otherwise I'd post a link. But they were talking about the Captain Marvel movie. He didn't even know who she was Because remember, the original Captain Marvel is DC's Shazam from the Golden Age. And then the original Marvel version of Captain Marvel was a man. And Captain Marvel, Brie Larson's character, was for the longest time Miss Marvel. It wasn't until recently, in the past decade, that she became Captain Marvel. She was not a very popular comic book character during that time. Why do you think they rebooted it so many times? And then people ask, why do they keep rebooting it? Well, if a number 10 issue isn't going to sell, a number 1 issue will. And that's one of the reasons why I stopped buying a lot of modern books. It's because I don't want to support what I don't believe in with my money. Because ultimately, no matter what, damage control Brie Larson is trying to do right now, and she's not doing it because she wants to. I guarantee you Disney told her to do it because they're going to lose a lot of money here. But I don't feel sorry for them because they chose this route. They allowed this to happen. And you get what you give. So even though I am not going to be spending my money to see this movie, does not mean I'm telling you not to. If you are so passionate about this that you will allow anything being said, or you agree with what was said, or you just don't care, if you want to spend your money, you have every right. I'm not going to look down at you. I'm not going to attack you for it. You have the right to do with your money anything you want. Within reason, of course. You shouldn't be hiring somebody to beat somebody up or something. But I'm sure most of you understand that. But when you have a movie that is basically saying, well, we want to raise this movie up for girls, I could see that as a good thing. But don't do it at the expense of taking men or boys and saying you're bad. You don't have to be better than somebody else to be good. And sometimes you have to earn that. So for me, as a white male, and if I say I don't want to see this movie, if I'm automatically, labeled as a misogynist or a sexist, that to me is just unintelligent thinking. That's not even thinking. And that's not going to change me. I'm not going to, if all of a sudden somebody said, oh, you're a misogynist and you're a sexist, I'm not going to turn around and say, you know what? I guess I will go spend the money on seeing that movie. It's not going to change my point of view. Because, again, I watch movies to be entertained, to make an escape. And I loved Wonder Woman. Now, remember, Wonder Woman has been around since the mid to late 40s. She's a very well-known character. And the woman, Gal Gadot, who played her, wasn't going around saying, well, this movie isn't going to be for white dudes. And they weren't trying to make every guy look like an idiot. I mean, I still to this day have not seen the reboot of Ghostbusters. But I've heard and seen clips here and there from people on YouTube videos where every guy is either a complete buffoon, a jerk, or is scared. That's not how life is. And again, if your job is to boost somebody up, which is perfectly fine, by beating other people down, you ever hear the expression, 2 wrongs don't make a right? And if I was to spend my money on this movie, I would be telling Disney and Marvel that what they're doing is okay, and that, as long as you put up a pretty little movie that's going to fill in a couple of little blanks in a series of movies that I enjoy, and I'm willing to sacrifice my integrity, they're going to keep doing it. And it's going to get worse. I love the Aliens franchise. As a matter of fact, the second movie, Aliens, the main character, Ripley, was strong, was compelling, was... basically every female soldier was a badass. But didn't make the guys look, oh, don't worry, you sit back, poor little man, I'll do the job for you. It was everybody working together, everybody used their strengths, and that a woman can be strong. I mean, look at Princess Leia. How they originally portrayed her in the first 3 Star Wars movies. She was a strong character. The idea is you cannot judge somebody in all directions based on their skin, based on their beliefs. Because if you say something like, oh, that movie, I don't want to hear any white dudes saying anything. Again, put a different race in there and tell me how many people would be offended. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you spin it. And I will not be praising Disney and praising Marvel for a movie that is based on a character that, one, I really didn't care about for the longest time, that I'm not too thrilled about. Now, when I originally heard that she was going to get in her movie, I was excited about it. But the more I heard Brie Larson speak, the more I watched the trailers, the less interested I got. And that's okay. I'm not a Nazi or I'm not a Satanist just because I don't like the direction this movie is going. And I can understand there have been people throughout history that have been suppressed. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to not know this. But the idea is to not beat others down, because then how are you any better? What did you learn through history? If you are going to do the very thing that somebody else did, but now that you're on top of the food chain, that instead of you showing a better example, you would beat others down? Sith Lord says, Chris, if it would have been another actress, would you watch the movie? Again, it depends, because part of the problem is the movie. Better, stronger, faster. Why does that need to be? Why does she need to be better? Why does she need to be stronger? Why does she need to be faster? And those are the parts they're showing us. Who knows what else is going to be in the movie? The idea is you're not supposed to put somebody else down to lift somebody else up. That is the wrong way to do it, in my opinion. So to me, it doesn't matter the actress. If Gal Gadot, who played Wonder Woman, was in this movie, and the movie was not changed in any way, I would still have a problem with it. But that doesn't make me a sexist. Just like, for example, I mean, Hollywood is so good at, placating themselves. They keep bragging about how Deadpool, one of the first rated R movies. Well, no, Blade was the first rated R comic book movie. How do people not remember that? Again, with Black Panther, they'll say, oh, well, it was great for African Americans. I liked it. It wasn't the greatest thing. I mean, tell me anything about Black Panther that was original and mind-blowing. It was an okay movie. But again, they're saying, oh, look, a black lead. There have been lots of movies with black leads. Again, anybody see the trilogy with Blade starring Wesley Snipes? Great movie. I would watch Blade over Black Panther any day. That doesn't mean Black Panther was bad, but it's not as hyped up as people are trying to make it out to be. And so many people are afraid to speak their mind for fear of being judged that they'll placate that. You tell me right now in the comment section, if you saw Black Panther and you saw Blade, if you saw both movies, if you had the chance to see one movie right now, if somebody said, I'll pay for it, and you could see either Black Panther or Blade, which one would you rather see? Be honest. Me personally, I'd rather see Blade. I thought it was more entertaining. And back then, because that was the time period where I stopped collecting comics, I didn't even know Blade was a Marvel character. I didn't have a problem with the fact that the lead was an African American. Had nothing to problem with it. It was a great movie. But nowadays, they're trying to lift others up, whether it's politically or, male and female and all these other things. It's whatever happened to the best person for the job? I mean, let's put it this way. Let's say your life is on the line and you need an open heart surgeon that's going to save your life. Would you rather have the best doctor or one that just happens to be diverse just for the sake of filling a diverse, fill-in? To me personally, I don't care if I'm getting operated on by a woman, a white person, Caucasian. or a space alien, as long as they know what they're doing and they're qualified in their job and they're damn good at it. This day and age, they're trying to say, well, we need to get everybody to do everything. Instead of saying, you know what, we need the best people for the jobs, regardless of who or what they are and who or what they believe. So yes, there's an old saying that says, be careful what you wish for, you may get it. Is it the ultimate in evil that people want to be included? Of course not. That'd be naive to say. But what is wrong with having the best people? And again, it's not changing history either when it comes to comic book characters. Because they've talked about, well, what if we have a African-American play Superman? I don't want to see that. Does that mean I'm a racist? No. It means that Superman is a white character, so it should remain a white character. Wonder Woman is a white female. I don't want to see her played by a male or a person of another race. That doesn't mean I have a problem with Mexicans or Asians or anything, or gay or straight people. You know, I don't have to agree with somebody's lifestyle, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop them from having it. Again, I don't like broccoli. If you love broccoli, that's great. I'm not going to try and make a law to stop you just because I don't like it or I don't agree with it. Like I've said repeatedly in other videos, I don't agree with a gay lifestyle, but I don't have a problem with somebody else having it. If 2 consenting or 3 consenting or 12 consenting adults all talk to each other and decide this is what we want to do, and they aren't doing it to children or animals or doing something forcefully, and there are grown adults that consent to these things, what they do behind closed doors is none of my business. Who am I to say what you can and cannot do? And Comic Jamboree says, were you not a fan of Miles Morales as Spider-Man? I absolutely am. Now, if he was replacing Spider-Man, I would have a problem with it. But what did they do? They made an alternate universe, the Ultimate Universe, and created another version of Spider-Man. I thought that was cool, just like Spider-Gwen. I love Spider-Gwen. I wouldn't have loved her if she replaced Peter Parker as the Spider-Man. That now this is Spider-Man. And even though Spider-Man's been around since, I think, 1962 or 1964, correct me, it's one of the two. And just because he was Peter Parker for all that time, now Spider-Man is a woman, deal with it. And if you don't like it, you're a hater, you're a sexist, you're whatever. That's just dumb to me. That's childish. That's lazy. So to me, I still to this day preach to people to get Edge of Spider-Verse 2, the first appearance of her character, and Ultimate Fallout 4, the first appearance of Miles Morales. I loved the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. That was a great movie. It wasn't bashing people. So I don't have a problem with alternative versions. I would be just as mad if all of a sudden they make a new comic book called Wonder Woman #1 and it happens to be an Asian guy playing Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is now an Asian male. How many women do you think would be upset with that? And rightfully so. And what do you think their response would be if people said, oh, what are you, a sexist? You have to like this, otherwise you're a troll. Doesn't that sound absolutely ridiculous? So to me, Captain Marvel represents a bad direction that Disney is heading towards. They've been putting little bits and pieces in movies. Not enough to make it a problem, but one that's becoming more and more noticeable. And this movie is a slap in the face to many people who just want to see a good Marvel movie, who don't want to be preached to or told that if you have a difference of opinion, you're evil. And to me, giving them my money says that it's okay to do that. Now, that doesn't mean Brie Larson doesn't have the right to have a strong feminist view. But don't beat other people up if they do not agree with it. Do not attack their character or their morals because they do not see eye to eye with your point of view. And don't silence people if they think or say things or believe things differently. That is wrong in any direction. And if people allow things like that to continue, do you think that's going to make them all of a sudden develop a conscience and say, you know what, we shouldn't be heading down this direction? Or do you think it will be more and more? Carl says there's no thumbs down yet. YouTube must be broke today. Now, my haters wait until later to watch my video. Don't worry. They won't let you down. There's not a video I've made with at least 5 thumbs down. So, trust me, I'm way over that stuff at this point. Haters are going to hate no matter what you do. If they want to spend their time watching things that they don't like, that says more about them than the very thing that they're spreading the hate on. So, don't worry. It'll be there. They do not disappoint. But my point is, there should not be political views, in my opinion, in what I consider entertainment. And if it's going to attack, because I am a quote-unquote white dude, I don't want somebody preaching to me what I can and cannot like, because we have the right to like or dislike anything we want. But what we don't have the right to do is tell somebody else or prevent somebody else from doing what they like, as long as it's not infringing on somebody else's rights. If you're a gay couple, have a happy life. Do whatever you want, as long as it's consensual and as long as it's with adults. But that doesn't mean I have to like it or agree with it. And if I tried to stop you, then I am the bad person. Whether it's morally right or wrong, who am I to decide that? And we're seeing more and more these days that people are saying, if you don't agree with our thoughts or our lifestyle or our political views or what have you, there's something wrong with you. Do you think that's more divisive, or you think it's more uniting? Just, you got to think sometimes. And like I said, they will use movies and music and TV shows and news, quote-unquote, organizations to spread this kind of propaganda. Entertainment is an easy way to get a political message through to the people who are not going to watch the news. Henry K. says, I agree, Brie Larson used the wrong choice of words, but come on. Oh, I got to scroll back up. Says, but come on, if you look at the whole dialogue, most people can tell her words were taken out of context. Well, I've seen them. I don't base things on what other people say. I view them myself. And again, it's more than what she said. It's also what the movie represents. The movie is lifting a female character up by saying that she must be better than someone else. That does not send a positive message. I'm not saying you have to agree. If you want to like her, if you want to like the movie, if you want to watch it and spend your money and bring 50 people along to do it, you have every right. But if people are going to judge somebody else's opinion, now I'm not bashing anyone. I'm just sharing my opinion and seeing a different point of view. Trust me, I do a lot of research in the things that I talk about. I didn't just, watch one thing that somebody else said. I saw the quotes. And like I said, not out of context. You could see it in her eyes. You could see it in her tone. You ever hear the expression, it's not what you say, it's how you say it? Like, I can kid around with you guys, say, oh, you're so stupid. Or I could turn and say, you guys are so stupid. Hear the difference in the two things, even though they were both the same phrase? Her tone suggested she meant what she said. Now, I could be wrong, and that's fine. But like I said, just imagine if she turned around and said, well, this movie wasn't for black guys. What do you think would be the response? Or if Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, said, oh, this movie isn't for white women. Do you think that would send a positive message or a negative message to people who may not have agreed with that statement? So my idea is you got to look at both sides. That's why I'm not left or right. I am everywhere. I get every point of view. You could not create a complete picture if you don't have all the puzzle pieces to put everything together. If you have half the puzzle pieces, you have half a picture. Don says, if it was taken out of context, she wouldn't have doubled and tripled down on the comments. Well, there you go. Again, by their deeds you shall know them. Why do you think they're doing damage control at the last minute? If she was sincere about it, she wouldn't have needed damage control. And even I watched those interviews. These are actors and actresses. They're good at lying. They're good at faking things, pretending. Remember when the Jussie Smollett situation happened? As soon as it happened, people instantly started blaming white people, started blaming the government, started blaming all these things before the facts ever came out. Even political people did that, calling it a quote-unquote modern-day lynching without any facts. Then all of a sudden it was found that the whole thing was staged and he made up the whole thing. Some of those people then, when confronted, said, well, we don't want to rush to judgment. We want to hear all the facts. Well, where was that the second that it got announced? When it fits your political agenda, you're okay with bashing people. And when it doesn't, all of a sudden now you become politically, well, let's wait for the facts. You got to listen to not just the words. You have to hear the tone. You have to see the visuals. You have to see the bigger picture. Or you could just not care. You can do that too. But make no mistake, if people spend a lot of money to see this movie, and it will be a success, it won't be Infinity War successful, but it will make money. That's telling the people, because remember, a movie does not get made if it can't make them money. As much as you love the actors and actresses and the people who may direct them, and even Marvel or Disney or DC, Warner Brothers, whatever, they are subject to their shareholders. Shareholders don't give a rat's behind about the Captain Marvel movie. They care that it will make them more money than they invested in. That's how these things get made. You wonder why there's not going to be another Judge Dredd movie right now? As good as people think that reboot of Judge Dredd was, it didn't make them enough money. But when they put that movie out, the actors were telling you, oh, how great it was and how much fun it was. And the director was telling you, can't wait for people to see it and how wonderful it was. And they distributed and did all these commercials, boosting it up, all excited about, we can't wait to show you our wonderful creation. That changed the day they got their receipts. It's all about money. But the problem is, people, especially in the comic book community, are very passionate about what they love. Why do you think this is called We Love Comics? Not we like them. There is love behind it. But we're seeing it from the fans' point of view. We're not investing anything more than $8 to $10 on a movie. There are ways to watch movies these days without paying a dime. Now, I don't recommend anybody do it, but, let's not be naive. There are always ways to do things that should not be done. I personally had a lot of interest in wanting to see this movie, but the more I heard about the plot and how they had to be bigger, stronger, faster, and how she hasn't earned all these things, she seems very dry, doesn't seem very fun, and it's all about, look how powerful I am, look at what I've overcome, I'm so much better. That's fine. If that made her feel great, she has the power to do it. I just don't agree with it, and I'm not going to give my money to support that. You have that right. But just be very careful. Because if we find this acceptable, to bash a certain person, because it's easy at this point. Yes, when you talk about history, were a lot of Europeans and, people of Caucasian color very abusive to certain people throughout history? They absolutely were. But make no mistake, we weren't the only ones. But that doesn't mean if some other race or some other group is rising themselves up, that doesn't give them the right to say, well, you guys did it to us, so we're now going to do it to you. Two wrongs don't make a right. And if people justify that, What message are you sending? Where's the love? And Captain Crunch, he was, again, anybody that does a super chat, I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop and talk about it specifically. Captain Crunch, $5 super chat, thank you so much. Says this was purely merit-based super chat. I appreciate that. Now, you know, sometimes I'm not going to say what you want to hear. But at least I'm not placating to you. I've seen so many channels, they're so afraid to give a difference of opinion. That's not integrity. That's just following the herd. Now, like I said, you may not agree with what I say. You may not like what I say. But at least you know I'm saying it from the heart. It's what I believe in. I'm not just following groupthink. That's a dangerous way to go. And Sith Lord says he has to leave, so thank you for viewing it. And I'm going to end it really quick here. I'm going to do a surprise subscriber shout out, and that's, you know, and that's for anybody that's been in the chat. So anybody that wants to be kind enough to give this a thumbs up, I really appreciate it. You don't have to like what I say. You don't have to agree with it. Just respect the fact I have the right to make that opinion. I could be 100% wrong. But that's the beautiful thing about opinions. Opinions are never wrong. They're wrong to somebody else. And if you base your opinions on somebody else controlling your thoughts, you're not living your own life. You're living somebody else's. My idea is to speak my mind, whether you agree with it or not. Because I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm here to show my perspective. You may resonate with it. You may not resonate with it. That's up to you. But if you want to listen, you know, to a bunch of people who are just going to keep being an echo chamber, just to hear everything that makes you feel good and not hearing another thought, how are you ever going to grow? Because sometimes you could learn more from your mistakes than you can with the things that you do well. People are so afraid to fail these days, thinking that it's a bad thing. To me, failure is life's way of saying, don't go in that direction or don't do that thing. And if you don't go in that direction and you don't do that thing, you won't be failing in that particular way, and you can improve or go in another direction. People are so afraid of that these days. Women have the right to be empowered. That's great. But don't do it at the expense of men. Even if men did it to you. Two wrongs don't make a right. How does that make you any better if you become the Frankenstein's monster? But people don't want to think these days because they're afraid they'll be ganged up on. And you know, like I said, I'll get my 4, 5, maybe 10, maybe even 15 haters on this video. But the majority of people will agree with it or at least respect my opinion. Because I'm not bashing anyone. But fair play is fair play for everyone. If you're going to become the very thing that you hated, then you are no better than the person who did it to you, or persons that did it to you. We don't all have to pretend to like things if we don't. But we don't have the right to stop somebody else from doing it. Again, unless it's infringing on somebody's rights, or it has to deal with children or animals or things like that. You know, common sense stuff that you think would be common sense. Jeff says really quick, should I sell my Miss Marvel #1? I can't tell you what you should and shouldn't do. All I can say is trust your own instincts and you do what you think is best. Because my thing is if I tell you to sell it and then all of a sudden 2 weeks after it becomes instead of, let's say you sold it for $100 and then 2 weeks later you could have sold it for $500. Well, who are you going to be mad at? You're going to be mad at me because I told you to do it. This is the thing in life. You do what you feel is right. So if you think you should sell it, by all means, please do. Because remember, even if you sell it, you can always buy it back. But don't rely on somebody else to tell you what you should do. Make your own decisions. Trust in your own decisions. And Monk's Den, this is really nice of you. Monk's Den did a $9.99 super chat. Thank you. And I'm going to read what he says. He says, I respect your opinion, Chris. I may not agree on everything, but you have the right to speak your mind. And there you go. That is it in a nutshell. I don't want everybody to kiss my rear end because you may like my channel. I don't want everybody to agree with everything that I say. Unless, of course, you agree with it. But make no mistake, we all have the right to our own opinion, our own political points of views, our likes and dislikes. You know, evil thrives when good people do nothing. And if you allow others to silence you because you may think or not agree in their group thought, then how is that helping mankind or womankind or humankind become better? So yes, it's a lot more than just Captain Marvel, a Disney movie made by Marvel Comics. There's a lot more to it, if you can think and see differently. And I am not going to give my money to a movie that me as a quote-unquote white dude is going to be preached at by somebody. You know, a lot of Hollywood talks about privilege. You know, if you're in Hollywood, whether you're black, white, gay, straight, whatever, they make a lot of money. And I'll show you some hypocrisy. Because they just had the Oscars recently. You know how a lot of people in Hollywood and the leftist agenda are always talking about how the wall is immoral? Whether you agree with the wall or not, that's up to you. But they say it's immoral. They want to try and limit the amount of ability to have guns. Because, again, immoral. Well, watch the videos of the Oscars outside the Oscars. And all the walls they put up around the streets. All the fences. And all the armed security guards. Seemed they didn't have a problem with walls and guns then when it came to protecting themselves. Did they let any of these, you know, people coming in from other countries just walk into the Oscars and sit down next to Lady Gaga? No, you didn't see any of them there. By their deeds you shall know them. Actions speak louder than words. They make good preachers when they go and wear their fancy suits and go on their fancy microphones and their fancy broadcasting stations and brag about the fact that walls are immoral and they don't stop people and guns are bad. And then they, when it's their turn to shine, they put up walls and they have armed guards to keep all of you common people away from them. Where's the inclusion that they so talk about? See any homeless people at the Oscars sitting down in the seats? Any of these people that are illegals at the Oscars? Any of them hand out an award? Not a one. By their deeds you shall know them. And it's the silence that's gotten us to this point because so many people are so afraid. And like I said, even with me, even with a simple comic book channel, I was so afraid at one point because people would gang up on me that I should be silent. Those days are over. So if you want to see Captain Marvel, that's fantastic. I hope you enjoy the movie. I hope it's everything that you want it to be, and you walk out satisfied. I won't hate you for it. I won't put you down for it. And maybe one day I'll see it. But right now, opening day, I won't be seeing it. When Infinity War comes out, I'll be seeing it open day. I will be giving them my money. Unless you're a billionaire who has money that you could just throw away all the time, be very careful who you give your money to. Make sure they earn it, just like you earned it. And Discovery Bay Comics says, hey, Chris, I'm not a subscriber yet, but I did give this live stream a thumbs up. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and the chat has been excellent, and that deserves a like from me. And thank you. And I hope one day you do subscribe to the channel. And the beautiful thing is you can unsubscribe at any time and come back anytime you want. And see, that's what I'm talking about. You notice in this chat, there's not people bashing and putting people down and fighting. Notice that people may not agree with everything I said, but they didn't have to put me down because of it. That's what I love about this channel and you guys. Yes, would I love to have 10,000 subscribers and 5,000 views on every video? Yeah, sure would. But I'll take quality over quantity any day. And I hope you think this is quality, because it's just a person who has a passion for what they speak about and gives their honest point of view based on their own thoughts, not somebody else scripting it, writing it for them, and telling them what to think. There's a reason why many people don't trust the quote-unquote news anymore. They're not investigative reporting. There's a reason why people don't trust Hollywood anymore. When, again, they talk about walls being immoral and how we got to get rid of guns, and all you have to do is watch the Oscars that just happened a couple of days ago, and they put up lots of fences and had a lot of armed security guards to keep you out. Doesn't seem inclusive to me, does it? But they'll tell you they're very inclusive. They're sitting in their, stretch limousines, living in their mansions, watching people barely making enough to survive because it fits their political point of view. It's If you like being used, hey, just write the word welcome on your forehead and lay down so they can walk on you. My thing is be better than that. So Discovery, I'm going to give you today's surprise subscriber shout out, even though you're not a subscriber, because that was a perfect comment, and I appreciate your thumbs up because I feel I earned it, and that's all I could ever ask for. So I want to thank all of you for listening to my point of view, respecting my ability to have it, and I would love to hear yours. Now, recently, because of some events that have been happening in my life, I haven't responded to many comments, and I apologize for that. Like I said, we had to bring Luna back to the emergency room last night. Cost us a lot of money. Thank God for my wife. She paid like 80% of it because of my situations. But the Super Chats definitely helped, so thank you. In the link in the description, there is a link to the cashback program. If you haven't signed up for it, the link is there. If you spend $25 or more, you get $10 cash back, and I get a one-time $25 thing from them. It's free for you to join. I hope you'll either sign up for it and utilize it, because I only make the $25 if you spend the $25 or more. So if you just sign up, I don't get anything. So if I'm not one of those people that ask for donations and stuff like that, so I'm not one of those people. But if anybody wants to do that, it helps me out. I want to thank everybody, and thank you for the kind word, Jeremy. I appreciate that. She's okay. She had to put one of those she had 2 stitches in her arm because unfortunately my other cat bit her and it's kind of sliced open her shoulder, which is really sad that she has to go through that. She's been through enough as it is. But I will get back to my regular ways soon, so I thank you for the appreciation and understanding and your kindness, because this is why I'm here. Like I said before, haters are going to hate. You're going to get them no matter what. The more popular you are, the more people that are going to be jealous or just not like you, and that's okay. But the majority of you are kind, considerate, understanding, and friendly, and that's what I like. Quality over quantity. So you guys are quality. Thank you very much for that. And if you are one of my proud power viewers, that means you watch a video from beginning to end. So you may have caught this in the middle of the live stream, but if you go and watch the whole thing from the beginning, make sure you put in the comment section that you are a proud power viewer. Let people know what kind of support you give this channel, because it means everything to me. I'm not going to have the fanciest of books. I'm not going to have the fanciest of equipment. I'm not going to have some speech writer writing down wonderful things to say, everything politically correct. I'm just going to be me. Some people appreciate that. Some people pass it by. I leave that up to you. So thank you very much for everything that you did in here. Thank you for the wonderful comments in the chats. I always read them. I will be doing that once I sign off. Congratulations to our surprise subscriber shout out, even though he's not a subscriber. Maybe I'll earn it someday. I hope I do. But as long as you're watching it and you're enjoying 1 or 2 of my videos and you get something from it, that means everything to me. And that's what I want this channel to be all about. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the Captain Marvel movie. I will see it eventually. I'm just not giving him my money. I hope you all have a great day. And don't forget, it's not you, it's not I, it's We Love Comics. And Roger Heller says, I love being a power viewer all the way. And so do I. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.